Teresa Giudice thought her legal troubles were behind her. After serving 11 months in federal prison for fraud in 2015, she rebuilt her life, her brand, and her bank account. She remarried, bought a mansion, and continued starring on Real Housewives of New Jersey like the comeback queen she believed herself to be. But in March 2025, court documents revealed a financial nightmare that makes her 2014 fraud conviction look like child's play. And Teresa and her husband Luis Rules owe over $3 million in combined tax liens to the state of New Jersey. Their wages could be garnished. Their $3.3 million Montville mansion could be seized. And according to legal experts, Teresa could be targeted by federal agents and made an example of because of her criminal history. This is the complete breakdown of Teresa's $3 million tax crisis, why the IRS is coming for her Bravo paychecks, Barb, and whether she'll lose everything she's rebuilt over the past decade. On March 20, 2025, a tax lien was filed against Teresa Giudice by the state of New Jersey for $33,889. Court records obtained by People magazine confirmed that Teresa is listed as the debtor and the case is being heard in Mercer County. But Teresa's debt is nothing compared to her husband's situation. In December 2024, Luis Rules was hit with a tax lien for $163,523.94. Then in March 2025, just weeks after Teresa's lien was filed, Luis received another devastating blow. A second tax lien for $2,569.8426. Let's add up the total damage. Teresa owes $33,88920. Luis owes $163,523.94 from December 2024. Luis owes another $2,569.8426 from March 2025. That's a combined total of $337,25520 in tax liens. According to the New Jersey court's website, all three cases against Teresa and Luis remain open as of the most recent check, meaning they haven't paid off the debts or reached settlements with the state. Mitchell Newark, a former Deputy Attorney General of New Jersey, who now specializes in tax law, explained to People magazine how tax liens work. A tax lien is filed after someone is made aware of their tax debt but hasn't taken appropriate action to respond. If the debt goes final because you don't challenge the assessment or you challenge it but lose in court and you don't pay, then they can seek to collect, and that's when you wind up with a tax lien, Newark explained. This means Teresa and Luis either legitimately owe this money or they challenged the assessments and lost. Either way, the liens are real, enforceable, and carry serious consequences. Newark warned, if there's taxes that are owed, and let's say the determination is not challenged, and you still refuse to pay your taxes, there's potential criminal liability. He emphasized, it's certainly very serious, especially with numbers of that magnitude. If you ignore that, there's the potential risk for civil consequences or criminal consequences. What makes Teresa's situation particularly dangerous is her criminal history. She's not just another housewife with tax debt. She's a convicted felon who served federal prison time for financial fraud. And according to Beverly Hills attorney Adam Michael Saxes, who spoke to the U.S. Sun, that makes her a prime target for federal agents to make an example of. The real connection is if you're dealing with the IRS, Sachs explained. Teresa has already been convicted once for financial crimes. If she's now facing another major tax issue, prosecutors could view this as a pattern of behavior rather than a one-time mistake. The attorney suggested that federal authorities might decide to come down hard on Teresa, specifically because of her high profile and previous conviction. They could use her case to send a message to other reality TV stars, pay your taxes, or face serious consequences. This isn't paranoid speculation. Teresa and her ex-husband Joe Giudice were both convicted in 2014 after pleading guilty to conspiracy to commit mail fraud, wire fraud, and bank fraud. Joe also pleaded guilty to failing to file a tax return. They falsified statements on loan applications to get mortgages they couldn't afford and submitted fraudulent W-2 forms and tax returns. Teresa was sentenced to 15 months in prison, serving 11 months at the Federal Correctional Institution in Danbury, Connecticut, before being released in December 2015. Joe served 41 months at Allenwood Federal Prison, was then taken into IC custody, and was eventually deported to Italy in 2019. The fact that Teresa is once again in trouble with tax authorities 10 years after her federal conviction is a very bad look. It suggests either she didn't learn her lesson or she married someone with equally problematic financial practices. Either way, prosecutors and the IRS won't be sympathetic. Teresa and Louise live in what they call Clarence Manor, a sprawling estate in Montville, New Jersey that they purchased in 2021 for $3,350,000. The 7-bedroom, 7-full-bathroom, 3-half-bath mansion features a movie theater. It's the home where Teresa hosts family gatherings, films confessionals, and showcases her rebuilt life post-prison. But that mansion is now at serious risk. While tax attorney Adam Brewer told the U.S. Sun that the IRS typically doesn't go after primary residences because it's an inefficient process, that doesn't mean Teresa and Louis's home is completely safe. You don't see the states or IRS go after primary residences, Brewer explained. It's an inefficient process for them. Might they have to send out agents to collect it? They have to resell it. They're not going to recoup a lot of money on it. However, there's a major complication. The couple has significant debt on the residence already. In March 2025, court documents revealed that Louise requested an extension to pay off a $1 million mortgage loan on the property. The original maturity date was March 25, 2025, but Louise got it extended to March 25, 2026. Even worse, he borrowed an additional $250,000 from the lender at the same time, bringing his total loan to $1.25 million. Louise also agreed to pay the lender a $5,000 loan fee as part of the extension deal. Think about that. Louise already owed $1 million on the house. Instead of paying it off, he got an extension and borrowed another $250,000. Meanwhile, he owes nearly $2.8 million in tax liens. This is not the behavior of someone with a sound financial plan. If Louise and Teresa default on that extended mortgage combined with the tax liens, the state could absolutely force a sale of the property to satisfy debts. They'd lose the mansion likely for far less than market value and still owe millions to the IRS on top of whatever mortgage balance remained. What's more likely than seizing the house is wage garnishment. And that's where Teresa's Real Housewives of New Jersey salary comes into play. Tax attorney Adam Brewer explained to the U.S. Sun exactly how the IRS can seize Teresa's Bravo paychecks if she and Louise don't set up a formal payment plan. If you're not in a payment plan, if you don't have some sort of formal agreement to pay it, then they can seize assets. Brewer stated the bank accounts and wages, that's easy. They send out one letter to a bank or employer and seize the funds. He emphasized, or that's definitely a risk if she's not in a formal payment plan. Brewer advised that setting up a repayment plan is the first thing you can do to protect yourself. The IRS gives you an opportunity to resolve it before they start seizing wages and bank accounts. But if Teresa and Louise ignore the liens or fail to negotiate payment terms, the IRS will absolutely go after Teresa's Bravo salary. Here's the problem. RHJ is currently on hiatus. The show finished filming season 14 in late 2024. Amen. Bravo has not announced when or if it will return for season 15. There are rumors that the entire cast could be fired and replaced, or that the show might be canceled altogether after the disastrous season 14 reunion. If Teresa loses her RHJ paycheck, which reportedly ranged between $1 million and $1.1 million per season at her peak, she loses her primary source of income. And without that income, how does she pay off $3 million in tax liens? Teresa does have other income streams. She earns money from her podcast, Turning the Tables, social media sponsorships, her lipstick line, and appearances, but none of those ventures bring in anywhere near the money that RHJ provided. If Bravo doesn't renew the show, or if Teresa gets fired, her ability to pay off this massive tax debt becomes nearly impossible. Beverly Hills attorney Adam Michael Saxes explained to the U.S. Sun how reality TV stars end up in massive tax debt despite earning millions. When working for a network or as a contractor, taxes often are not deducted when paychecks are issued. He explained it's very common to spend all the money and not put anything aside. At the end of the year, you owe a lot of money, a third or more, and they don't have it. This is exactly what likely happened to Teresa and Luis. Reality TV stars are typically classified as independent contractors, not employees. That means Bravo doesn't withhold taxes from their paychecks. They receive the full amount and are responsible for setting aside money to pay federal, state, and local taxes at the end of the year. If you're making $1 million per season and you spend the entire $1 million on your mansion, designer clothes, expensive vacations, and luxury lifestyle, you're in for a rude awakening when tax season arrives, and you owe $300,000 to $400,000 in taxes that you don't have. Attorney Adam Brewer explained the penalties that come with unpaid taxes. How mainly we worry about late payment penalties, he told the U.S. Sun. So, if Teresa and Luis owe $3 million in back taxes, they could be looking at an additional $750,000 in penalties on top of the original debt. Brewer also warned that Teresa is looking at paying past due taxes plus current taxes at the same time. It really can put a crutch on you. Think about that compounding problem. Teresa still has to file and pay taxes for 2025 and 2026, while simultaneously trying to pay off millions in back taxes from previous years. Unless she has millions in liquid cash sitting around, which seems unlikely given the mortgage extension and additional loan Luis took out, there's no way to catch up without a formal payment plan with the IRS. During Real Housewives of New Jersey Season 14, Teresa's castmate Margaret Josephs made a shocking allegation. She claimed on camera that Luis had pissed Teresa's money away. At the time, Teresa vehemently denied the accusation. She appeared on Tori Spelling's podcast, Misspelling, and fired back at Margaret, saying, "Margaret says my husband spends all my money. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. She's not even in my house. She's putting out this false narrative out there. And it's like she's trying to make me her storyline." But the $3 million in tax liens suggest Margaret might have been onto something. Luis is responsible for the vast majority of the debt. Out of the $3 million total, Luis owes approximately $2.7 million, while Teresa only owes $33,000. That's a massive discrepancy. What has Luis been doing financially that resulted in nearly $3 million in unpaid taxes? According to reports, Luis works as the executive vice president of business development for a Florida-based business that he co-founded. Yes, he also has other business ventures, but clearly those businesses either aren't generating the revenue Luis claims, or he's spending money faster than he's earning it and forgetting to pay taxes along the way. The timeline is also suspicious. Luis borrowed an additional $250,000 against Teresa's mansion in March 2025. The same month his massive $2.5 million tax lien was filed. Was he trying to get cash to pay off the lien? If so, why did he only borrow $250,000 when he owes 10 times that amount? It doesn't add up. And it suggests Lou is engaging in short-term financial band-aids rather than addressing the fundamental problem. This isn't Teresa's first rodeo with financial disasters caused by trusting the wrong man. Her entire federal fraud case in 2014 stemmed from trusting her ex-husband Joe Giudice to handle their finances. Joe falsified loan applications, submitted fraudulent tax returns. Aaron engaged in bankruptcy fraud while Teresa signed the documents without reading them carefully or questioning what he was doing. Teresa's defense during her trial was essentially that she was ignorant about finances and trusted Joe to handle everything. She played the role of the naive wife who didn't understand what she was signing. The judge didn't buy it entirely, but she did receive a lighter sentence than Joe because prosecutors believed she was less culpable. Now, 10 years later, Teresa finds herself in almost the exact same situation. She married another man, Luis Ruelas, and appears to have once again let him handle finances without proper oversight. And once again, she's facing millions in tax debt that threatens everything she's worked to rebuild. At what point does Teresa take responsibility for her own financial illiteracy? She's a 52-year-old woman who's been on reality television for over a decade, earning millions of dollars. She's written best-selling cookbooks. She's appeared on Dancing with the Stars and The Celebrity Apprentice. She's built a brand worth millions. Yet, she still doesn't seem to understand basic concepts like setting aside money for taxes or conducting due diligence on her husband's business practices. As of the most recent updates, all 3 tax lien cases against Teresa and Louise remain open according to the New Jersey court's website. That means they haven't paid off the debts, haven't reached settlements, and are still in active litigation with the state. The question is whether they've set up a formal payment plan with the IRS or if they're hoping to fight the liens in court. If they fight and lose, the consequences escalate dramatically. Mitchell Newark warned that there's potential criminal liability if they refuse to pay taxes after losing a court challenge. The IRS could file criminal charges against both Teresa and Louise for tax evasion. Given Teresa's prior conviction, a second set of criminal charges could result in a much longer prison sentence than the 11 months she served in 2015. If they set up a payment plan, they're looking at years of paying off $3 million plus penalties, plus current year taxes. Even if Teresa keeps her RHJ salary of $1 million per season, that's barely enough to cover the tax debt payments, while also maintaining their expensive lifestyle and paying the mortgage on their $3.3 million mansion. Say the most likely scenario is that something has to give. They'll either need to sell the mansion and downsize dramatically to free up cash, or Luis will need to sell off his business interests and assets to pay his portion of the debt. Or Teresa will need to drastically cut her spending and dedicate the majority of her income to tax payments for the next several years. None of these options are appealing for someone who's built their entire brand around living a glamorous, luxurious lifestyle. Teresa Giudice's $3 million tax nightmare proves she never learned her lesson from federal prison. With wages at risk of garnishment, a mansion loaded with debt, and the IRS targeting her because of her criminal history, this could be the financial disaster that finally destroys everything. Subscribe for updates as this unfolds.